Okay, hey everybody, this is Brett from Moonstream, and we're just going to let everyone in. Joe is with us today, so those of you who haven't met Joe, we get to kind of meet him. And we're going to talk about some charts. We're going to do a training on the crypto mastery signals this week. This is mainly for the new Moonstream mentoring students and good review. And maybe we'll give you a sneak peek of what Joe and I are working on, which is very cool. Maybe the future of trading technology. Very cool stuff. So I'll just say hi to a few people. I've got Joe, as I said, Tim, C-Star, Cliff, Todd, hey Todd, Peter, welcome, Chaith, Aisling, and William, Cornelia, Dan, Stanford Wong, hey Stanford admin, Peter, Mike, and Anita. All right, welcome everyone. So, and especially welcome new mentoring members. So here's what we're going to do. This is going to be new for some of you and a review for some of you, and that's okay. And it's not the best day in the market, is it? It's we're down a bit. I just would suggest kind of take a deep breath. We'll look at this in a moment, but I wanted to give you a quick wave before we dive in. And if you have any questions, maybe save them for now. During the training, if you have an indicator-specific question while I'm going over it, or even after, please do put that in the chat, and we'll go over that. The purpose of this is to get everyone kind of up to speed on these signals, and everything is new, learning curve, all that. But I have to say, these are the best and the easiest to use signals that I've ever used, and we've been fine-tuning them over the years. So with that, you should be able to see my screen, but before we dive in, and I'm going to use dark screen today. Sometimes we use white screen. You can use either. But the signals that we're going to be looking at are predominantly the ones you see on my screen. The arrows here are, of course, the early reversal indicator, and then we have the trend strength indicator, and this is the RSI here with an RSI bearish divergence, the red circle. So just don't worry about the big fancy names if you don't know what they mean. That's why I love using these. The pattern recognition is all you need. And if you haven't already, please go over, and then I'm going to introduce Joe here in a minute, but go over to moonstream.io/free checklist. Make sure you have that. And ideally download it so that it's interactive. It will load in the browser, but for the interactive part of it, you need to download it. So I'm doing that now. And don't look at that yet. All right, some of you got a sneak peek there if you were paying attention, but we'll get to that. So the trader success checklist looks like this. We've been putting this together for a couple of years, many iterations, always improving it, and we'll continue to do so. But the big feature here is if you check a box because you notice a pattern in here as shown, it will give you a trade success score. And when you get to 2 or above, I'm usually getting into the trade. Sounds easy. We are trying to kind of make this easy for everybody. So we will come back to that. But I wanted to bring Joe on just to say hello. And so Joe, if you're around, and we'd like to say hello in a minute. I'll just give you a little background though. Joe is one of my partners here, and he's the creator of these amazing indicators. This is not a commercial. This is, so if you are here, you probably already have these. If you don't, then you probably should get them. But especially now with this phase of the bull market. And just as a quick view, you can read about more of them at cryptomastery.org. They're listed here, and you don't need all 10 of them. I'm going to show you which ones to pay attention to first. But pretty soon, once you look at these a few times, you're going to get it. And I've been using these things since I met Joe in 2021. And I'll also just be honest, in 2018, when I was trading crypto, I wasn't doing very, very well using the standard indicators that everyone grew up using, RSI, stochastics, RSI, MACD. They don't work because everyone uses them. Some people still use them, but you don't have an edge really. I mean, certainly if you've mastered them and that's all you've ever known, maybe. But these are better. And so hats off to you, Joe, for being the mastermind behind these, because when I first met you, I was like, I really love to work with you on these. And so anyway, so Joe, if you'd like to come on and just say a quick hello, that would be great.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Any ideas or improvements that you guys may have along the way, we're always open to suggestions. we got to this point from your suggestions and from our experiences, and we aspire to present to you the best leading predictive chart overlays that are available on the market. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. I think the key word is predictive. Most indicators are reactive, and that's a huge advantage. So I'm not here to make it salesy. I'm here to make sure you guys understand what you have in your hands and to pay attention. So before I dive into the sort of charts that might be a little intimidating, I know some of you are new to TradingView, etc., and so these do run on TradingView. If you haven't already, then I would go sign up for TradingView, probably the $25 a month version. And there's a link somewhere in the members area, so you can do that. And I would recommend do the monthly because every year they do a Black Friday sale, which is 70% off, and that's when you can upgrade for the year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this image here just to give you a primer for those of you that are first time seeing these, okay? And so these are some of the indicators loaded on this chart. This was CASPA last year. And by the way, if you're worried about the markets here, I'm just quick sidebar. I want to wait to see where we close today because it's getting awfully oversold here. And I wouldn't be surprised. I did post in the room yesterday we would come down to 114 and retest that area. So by the end of the day, if it can hold back above that green line, the green line is the 50-day exponential moving average. It is on the Trader Success Checklist. So we have our work cut out for us today, but certainly nothing to panic about at this point. Even if it comes down 112,000 for a retest, there are some sellers up around 122K. We can see those. And but I think based on global M2 money supply, we should be heading higher soon and a few other things. So I wouldn't panic with this. We're going to wait and see how the market closes because it could certainly run up toward the end of the day and hold here. And we'll unpack that a little bit. We were going to do some news, but I think I'm going to focus on just the indicators today, and I'll probably do a YouTube video this afternoon based on some of the news that's out there, and we'll get that out to you guys. Fair enough? All right, check the chat. No questions? Perfect. So where were we? Jumping over here. Quick review for you guys too. When these things line up, that's when the best signals happen. So let's start with an easy one. This green block right here, where it says buy order block, what we've done is visualize where the buyers already are on the order book. And so we're going to start very beginner level with this, and then we're going to kind of pick up steam. And you guys can also watch this over again. And I do a more in-depth training. I did one a couple weeks ago on YouTube. It's 2 hours long. That includes TradingView setup. I'm not going to really get into that today. This is for the indicators. But if you're new, that'll be 2 hours of two of the best hours you'll spend. You can watch it at higher speeds, and you can rewatch it. You can watch portions of it. And so, Myrene, if you wouldn't mind, maybe drop the link to that, the YouTube video training that we did for the first phase of new mentoring students. And so we'll get that to you guys. And just trust me, everyone can learn this. It takes a little bit of time, but to get the basics, pretty simple. Big green order block, what does that mean? That is the concentration of buy limit orders. That means if you wanted to buy this coin at 14 cents, you could put an order in. Not now, but back then you could have put an order in. You'd say, I'll buy it at 14 cents. And if the price came down to that price, then it would fill on the order books. So pretty simple, right? This big green block, this is where the majority of the buyers were. And so you can see the price came right down to that mid-level, right around that 14 cents, and that's where it reversed. So this joke is probably getting a little bit tired, but I'll do it one last time. There's an Italian restaurant down on the end of the block where I go sometimes, and great Italian food, and they have shirts. They say that it says on the back, the Italians are here. Well, this is basically saying the buyers are here, okay? And you can see that price reversed right in that range. The other thing you can see is this red, so this green arrow here, that is the early reversal indicator, ERI, hence the name. That's when prices tend to reverse. And I remember 3 years ago when we were using some indicators, we were getting signals a bit later than we wanted to get in. So we were actively looking for how can we help people signal at that right of reversal area. Now, this was an accidental discovery. And so this is why I want to be paying attention. Some of the best discoveries in history have been accidents. Is that right? I think penicillin is one example. And so we noticed in a certain pattern, in a certain time period, on another one of the oscillators Joe had created. And to be honest, it was maybe not as useful as we were the other ones were, and we were going to turn it off. And then the last moments, my brain, I'm like, well, let me just make sure, see if I see anything here. And long story short, I noticed a pattern when the oscillator got below 3, ideally touched 0, and got above a certain area within 3 time periods. This is all things your brain's not going to be able to handle, but when Joe coded it that way, and the actual oscillator, if anyone's here is like, that's cute, you've got a green arrow there, I get it. We've coded the arrows to trigger when those criteria met within the time period. Joe added a Keltner channel. Most of you don't even need to know what that is. Some of you probably want to know, is there anything behind it? The bottom line is, I think after using it for a year or two, not really understanding why it worked, but just understanding that it worked, I realized that it's catching programmatic buying and selling, institutional buying and selling. So a lot of trading is counterintuitive, but the analogy that I use and have over the years is we can't beat the market. The market always wins. The house always wins. But we can trade alongside them. If you can't beat them, join them. And what I mean by that specifically is the market makers of today are surely advanced AI algorithms. They're not people anymore. In the old days, there was even live trading pits, open outcry, people saying, I'll buy 2 of these if you ever saw Trading Places. And if you realize that 20 years ago, the world's best chess player was beaten by a computer, and I know that that's happening now. The biggest money game in the world is Bitcoin and crypto, and I don't want to just call it that. The financial markets are efficient. Point being is we want to be the flea on the biggest dog in the room that's running the fastest, or at the dog park. I haven't come up with a better analogy yet, but hopefully you get that. And when that dog runs out of energy, we jump to the next dog, a little scrappy dog that's going to run really fast. I don't know, you guys. The point being, this is that signal, especially when it's coming into an order block. So with your trade success checklist, let's jump over to that. What would we want to do here with this? Because I want to give you actionable advice no matter what level you're at. And understand that later, and the more times you use this, you'll begin doing it in your head. You won't need this. But I still recommend you review it from time to time, because this is the exact process that goes through my mind when I pull up a chart, and it just happens like that. But when you're new, you have to build those neural pathways. So is there a green arrow if you're evaluating a long trade? And yes, there are bearish signals also. That would be the opposite, obviously. Is there a green arrow, early reversal indicator, which indicates a bullish reversal where buyers are in control? And so if you see a green arrow there, then you would check that box. Trade success score, 1. Is 1 enough? No. Is 2 enough? Usually. So in this example, and I'm using this because it's simple, it's not live, we're not flashing lights and going to distract anybody. So we also have a couple other things happening here. And the second thing I look for, and we'll come back to that buy block, is the trend strength indicator. This is a momentum indicator that Joe created, and essentially you want to look for when it turns from red to green. Now yours might look a little differently out of the box. All of these are, you can change in the settings. I change it to like a chevron, but when it turns from red to green, that's important. But the trigger is, does it get above the 20 line? And for years and years, many of the indicators, that's what they use. The overbought and oversold areas, 80, 20. So that's nothing new for many of you. Point being, on this one, yes, it was. So we had, and it even says here, use with the TSI for confirmation. Next one, is that trend strength indicator turning up and above the 20 line and out of the green zone? This indicates a new bullish cycle where buyers are in control. So you guessed it, check the box. What do we have? We have a trade success score of 2. Often, especially in a bullish environment, I'll be getting into a trade there. I like to see 3 or more, but you guys can make that determination. And the key there is not to go all in. Successful traders build positions over time, and that might be you might buy half here and half later, or a quarter now, quarter later. But if you get into the trade, that would be enough. And then add to the trade as the other signals start to align. This is pretty basic stuff, so I'm going to go pretty quickly. And by the way, how many of you have turned on the indicators? Does anybody need me to show you where to find them and turn them on? I wanted to kind of lead with some of the exciting stuff so that you guys are engaged. But if you haven't yet and you have filled out your form giving us your TradingView ID, and by the way, this is confusing for many people as it was for me too. Your TradingView ID is just your username. They make it sound like it's some kind of a number. You don't need a number, it's just this, and mine's just my name. Okay? So once you fill that out in the members area, that will go over to Joe, and this is still a manual process, everybody. So Joe has to go in, turn it on for you, and once that happens, you'll find it under here to see this graphic that looks like a chart. If you hover over it, it says indicators, metrics, and strategies. You'll want to go here to invite only. In the regular area, there's, you'll find all of your normal things like the exponential moving averages. There's 1,000 things in here that you don't need. I'll say right now, if this is a little intimidating, a lot of this is knowing what to ignore and what to pay attention to. And Einstein's famous for saying, genius is making the complicated simple. And Joe's a genius because he's done that. You're welcome, Joe. But no, I mean it. There's each one of the signals is 2 or 3 indicators built into one for 2 reasons. One, so that you don't have those charts. We've all seen them where there's 1,000 things going on. It looks like cosmic spaghetti and you can't tell anything from anything else. So, and the other reason is on TradingView, the subscription plans limit how many indicators you can have on your screen at one time. So if we can build 3 into 1, counts as 1, saves you money. So what you'll be looking for, and you won't have all of them, you'll be looking for the ones with the blue M for M3, and there's about 10 of them. The rocket, we're going to go through all of them today. There's the rocket. Now the rocket's another discovery, an accidental discovery, that a pattern that I have been looking for years, and had for even over a year wanted to program it, and we did. With the help of ChatGPT, actually. That was kind of cool. And then the crypto screener, we'll look at that. That is a way you can have it always looking for signals in a basket of your 10 favorite coins. The ERI Pro, I just talked about. We're going to go through all these, don't worry. The Trend Pro, the TSI Pro, the Trend Strength Indicator. The Trend Pro we don't really use as much. I'll show it to you, but it's the bigger ones I'm going to spend more time on. And the M3 order block detector, that was that green box. There's also red boxes for where the sellers are. And, it's kind of like, well, we'll get to that. I was going to use my Wayne Gretzky example, but all of these really help us know where price is going to be. Joe said predictive. Wayne Gretzky is famous for saying why he was the best hockey player of all time. And he said, because I skate not where the puck is, but where it's going to be. And that's the goal of the signals and what we are, I believe we've achieved and are continually getting closer to that. All right. So the RSI Pro, you may have heard of. RSI stands for Relative Strength Index. We'll show you that. Now, what Joe's done with ours, I'll say ours because I'm showing it to you, but it's his creation. And it shows very easily where there are bullish and bearish divergences. Hidden clues most people don't see where prices are going to reverse, about to. All right, the next one, Bollinger Bands. You might have heard of those. And these are kind of a reversion to the mean, think of it as a rubber band. And when they touch the extremes, they are pulled by unseen forces. It's not causal necessarily, but generally when they touch either a band, high or low, they revert not only to the median line, but often to the other extreme. And my old friend Steve Nissen taught me that. If you don't know the name Steve Nissen, he didn't write the book on candlesticks. He wrote pretty much all of them. He's the guy that brought it over from, made it popular from Asia, and he used to speak at my seminars in Orlando. Funny story about how I became friends. I'll tell you that later if you guys want to hear it, because he wanted nothing to do with me at first. And but then we did a promotion together, and I made him a bunch of money. And then he was calling me every month, say, "Hey, can we do that promotion again?" Anyway, long story. But the last one is the Signal Line Pro. This is kind of like a MACD for those of you that are familiar with that. See, I'm talking to two audiences here. Those that have been around and they're looking for, can I trust these? And your trust level is already with RSIs, the MACD. So there's that side, and then there's the other side. You have no idea what I'm talking about. And that's okay, because visually you'll understand very soon. Any questions? I see a question comes in. Yes, please. Anita, yes, please to what? I should have the chat open so I know when that came in. 1219. All right. Well, you can tell me what you're answering to. We're going to keep going. Maybe I'll come back to that, because I know some of you are here not for my stories and anecdotes, but to actually learn something here. So we're going to try to do both. Okay, where were we? Back to the trade success checklist. So far, so good. Everyone with me? Again, the link to this is at moonstream.io/free checklist. And I don't know if you might have to opt in or something, but I think it just goes right to the download. Great. Alrighty, so with that, we've covered the trend strength indicator. So quick review: ERI, green arrow, first. Second, TSI, green, check, we've got 2. Trade success score of 2. What do we have next? Well, I'm looking at a couple other things. I'm looking at this RSI down below. And down here, we had bullish divergence, that green circle. I'll explain what it means, and I'll also tell you don't really need to know what it means. If you look for the green circle, it is an additional sign markets are about to reverse and go higher. A red circle, the opposite. Okay, so now there are 2 types of bullish divergences. There is hidden, and then there's regular. You don't need to know what that means. Just relative strength, green circle. Go to the checklist, say, all right, do we have a green circle? That was a newer edition, so it's farther down on the list. I think I'll probably move it up higher because the 4 horsemen, that, as we used to call them, here it is. No, it's in the top 4. Okay, so there's that green circle. Trade success score of 3, doing pretty well. And these all are described here, as I've said. You don't need to. I'm not going to go into it. The 4th one is the signal line. Joe, I would love for you to explain the signal line, because I know it's related to a MACD, and all I know and all I need to know is if that turns green, that's a good bullish sign, but I have no idea what's inside this thing. So I'm going to let you kind of jump in if you wouldn't mind, and then, but real quick, I'm going to just check that, because in our example, we also had the signal line turn green right there. And at that point, we then have a trade success score of 4, and that's when I'm adding to the trade. But are you there, Joe? Still, do you mind explaining the signal line? What is it?
Yeah, sure. Look, we use the signal line. That's a linear calculation. So what that does is that's giving us validation, right? So once the market cycle does start to turn, right? You're seeing in there with the color the actual swing place take place from money flow, from shift from buyers to sellers or sellers to buyers, and it helps set the right expectation when you see that convergence. And generally, when you have that with the TSI, now you really have something good. So it makes sense that the checklist, okay, your score goes higher when you do get this validation. And this is similar to a MACD, but it's not a MACD. It's slightly different on the calculation, um, and also the visualization of what we're trying to do with the color, just to make this easier to process the information for what we want it to happen. Because if we're looking for a buy setup and we want to come in on the buy, well, okay, we want to have the signal line giving that validation or just about to turn, and we want to see what the TSI is doing right at that point. Because the more tools that we have in our favor, or chart overlays, the greater there is of having success. Like all these chart overlays are detecting market cycles when they swing from buy to sell, similar to like measuring the waves of the ocean. And when we do have, these conditions set up and we do get the validation, it's good to know, okay, we have the signal line, we have the TSI, oh, we have the trend pro. Mainly the ones that I like it in particular, just my favorite ones, just throughout the years, because I use these tools, is really the TSI, the RSI, and the ERI. Like those really become my favorite. Okay. Sometimes the signal line lags, but sometimes the signal line is on time. So it's really tricky because you got to kind of remember the market. If you, and I like to use the analogy of the ocean, right? We want to be a great surfer, right? So we got to catch the wave at the right time. So when it comes into using these tools, they're great at detecting the waves of when they're happening. And sometimes the waves are moving faster, so it might be a faster wave. So sometimes you get like a fast reversal. The TSI is like the all star with the RSI. Like the signal line may lag. It's just the business. But sometimes, this happens. All the stars are lined up, and it's like kind of like an eclipse. Like this just happens like once a month, or maybe a couple of times a month, and then you have a higher probability trade where now you can anticipate for the market to move even greater in your favor. So, all these tools are designed to put the probability of success more in our favor.
Great, excellent. And and by the way, Joe, I maybe just could you do a quick 30-second background? I think it would be helpful people to know that you're actually a trader, not just a programmer and developer, and that you actually use these in from daily basis and used to be run or work with a hedge fund. So uh, yeah, just a quick background check would be
Sure.
great.
Yes. Look, I've been trading in here since 1994, over 30 years experience. Um, Look, none of this success came easy. I'm just here because I've had really hard times and I've been able to find solutions. Like things haven't been easy for me. And I've been fortunate enough to work, to have the knowledge, but also have great friends that support me and we brainstorm different ideas so that I can progress and make things better. These weren't
Yeah.
the tools that we were using, 10 years ago. These are so much more advanced and better.
And I'm going to chime in because I know your backstory. And when you guys were running the fund and the financial crisis hit, all that money went bye-bye, and a lot of it was client money. Joe basically vowed to never let that happen again. And that was the nexus for creating these great tools. These don't happen by accident. Each of them are specially tuned for crypto. They also work with stocks, but mostly with crypto. So we'll get into that. And I think that was just good enough. I want to respect people's time. So thanks for that, Joe. And uh, good to have you on here. So we should do more of these actually together. On that note, I just updated the RSI Pro and I see a new red line. What is the red line? Are these pulling to, maybe you could explain these vertical lines on this.
Well, right now, I think it's just showing divergence of what we're looking at, the way the condition of the
Okay.
market is.
All right. Well, we don't need to get in the weeds with it. I just so, and that's the thing, you guys. Well, I'm looking for confluence, not every last detail. So what we have here, obviously, price is going down. But look at this on Bitcoin, the bearish ERI over here and a bearish engulfing candle in the sell block was our first signal to be getting out, and I was suggesting we'd see some kind of a pullback. And I think coming, we could at this point either hold at 114 or possibly come down a little further to retest that old resistance flipped as support. The TSI to me has more room to come down, but there are a number of things and factors lining up for alt season to really kick off that I was watching this morning that I'll share with everybody. So that's Bitcoin. We'll come back to this and do some more examples, real world live examples, and then I'm going to continue showing you how I use these. So, but based on this and the example we're looking at, just gonna kind of step away from real time for now, and we can look at this scenario. So right now we have 4 things lined up, and we're looking for more. Now, most times there's not this perfect alignment of all of them. Usually it's 2 or more you buy, 3 or 4 you're adding some more, and then if you're seeing 6 or 7 on the score, even buying some more, like the rocket and the buy block. So back to the example here, we can see the buyers are down here. And so on this, we'll skip this one here. You also have normal charting patterns like bullish engulfing candles above the trend lines. And for this training, I'm going to stick to what we're doing with our own indicators. And so part of the ERI Pro, by the way, are these light green buy blocks. That's kind of a new addition. That shows money flow. And that also signifies increased demand in buyers. So we don't have that right now, but I wanted to mention it. Where is this? Here, the buy blocks. So the buy limit orders. This is the price, basically where I said earlier, this is where the buyer's interest likely to push prices higher in the coming periods. And so back to our example, do we have that? We did. We have a buy block right down in there. So you guessed it, we would check that trade success score is now at a 5. And so now we're kind of continue to look for other factors that could push it higher. What's another one? Now this is one of my favorites that you're going to love. It's called the rocket. And basically, if you ever have seen a bottle rocket or have fired one off or a firework, maybe that's what it looks like. It looks like essentially the real body, that green body there, is the fuel, the rocket fuel. It has to be sitting on what I call the launch pad, usually the 21-day or the 50-day or period. It can work in all time frames, 4-hour, weekly, etc. EMA is exponential moving average. We'll show you how to set those up real easy, and don't even need to know what it means. But basically, and then the fuse below, it has to have a tail below. And the analogy I give is imagine lighting the fuse, and the more rocket fuel there is in here, the higher it goes up into the air. These are quick moves where you can grab profits and typically sell up into this pump because it usually runs out of fuel and falls back down. These are great for quick profits. So description is there a rocket at support? A rocket is a green candle with a real body resting at support. A price wick below that closes at or near the top of the day. How do you know that? It closes, you don't see like the tail on the top, the topping tail as we call it. And that tells us that buyers were in control all the way into the end. And I guess I should clarify that crypto trades 24 hours a day. So the closing candle is at 8 p.m. Eastern during daylight saving time, 7 p.m. when it isn't. I know it's confusing, but and that's when the next candle starts. You can always tell where that is for your time zone, by the way, if you have it turned on here. This says the price is 113,731, and there's 7 hours to go till the next candle, and that also works in all time frames. Anyway, simple stuff. All right, so the rocket fired, and that's great. So shot up in the air, great profits. Where did it run to? It got almost up to the upper Bollinger Bands. So let's talk about the Bollinger Bands. These are specially coded for what we do with crypto. And, I've used Bollinger Bands for years. And generally the consensus is price pushes up to the upper Bollinger Bands, and that's usually where it's pulled back toward the median or the middle line. Problem is, regular Bollinger Bands don't work well for crypto. And I'll show you the difference, just so you can see. For a while there, I was manually doing this and just kind of guesstimating, because the volatility on Bollinger Bands, named after John Bollinger, it's much more with crypto. So here's a standard Bollinger Band. And it was not very useful because you could see price here was getting outside of the Bollinger Bands. So it was kind of hard to use that. And so what we've done with ours, if you watch the difference here, I'll click ours on, and so we've tweaked the settings so that it contains the price much more effectively. Now you can use both in some circumstances, not to get into the weeds here, but over here it touched the normal Bollinger Band and reversed, and I'll sometimes check that. But over here in areas of increased volatility, the difference, just to be honest, is a difference of 1 standard deviation. So the standard Bollinger Band is 2, This is 3. So if you use both, you can always kind of see where things are. And in this case, it also gave us a signal when to get out of the market, and also right here. That's a little bit, maybe a little bit harder for you guys to grasp, but it's not too hard, right? So if you see prices closing above these areas or below, above, this is usually a take profit zone, especially when we get 2 or more. And this right here, a couple days ago, this was last Thursday, pretty clear sell signal. We had the sell block, that's where the sellers were, pushed up above the Bollinger Band, bearish engulfing candle, and we went red on our signals. See that? I will tell you that my bear market top signal is, without any question or emotion, is on a weekly time frame and a similar pattern that what we just saw. And so you don't need to master these, and if this is making your eyeballs hurt, don't worry, I got you. I'll be watching this very carefully. And the way that I called the top last cycle was right here. Bearish engulfing candle. The cello candle is larger than the green one. Bearish early reversal indicator. And I'm going to turn off the standard Bollinger Band. Now, where is it? I have too many things on the chart here, and sometimes that's a problem because I've got too many and it doesn't let me go. Here it is. Never mind. Cool. Oops. What happened there? Did we... Sorry, I want some things on here where... Anyway, well, that's all we need. So for clarity, this signal there, and also if you're using the trade success checklist on the bearish side, you can do the math on this also. So back in November 2021, we had this red arrow, the bearish ERI, touching up into this area up where the normal Bollinger Band would be. That isn't one of my key signals for the bear market top, so maybe I'll turn that off. Specifically, what I'll be watching for is this and this, the TSI red below 80. You can see that was a confirmed bearish signal at the market top. And then we had a bearish divergence. Again, my alerts are going off. ETH crossing down 41.50. Yeah, no surprise. I've been saying that. And then the signal line. So just when everything kind of, when you have confluence with 4 or 5 of these, that's when you really pay attention. There are some times where you might get 2 or 3, or maybe there's some noise, but we had a couple shots at the top, even back in September of 2021. These patterns there, and there. So we'll be watching for that on the weekly time frame. And if we zero in on today, and I just want to say, trust me, guys, you can get this. It'll start to make sense because we talk about it ad nauseum. It's mostly the same. So, you know, right now we're okay. If we start to lose, if this starts to come down on the weekly, then I might say, guys, we've got some problems here. But the nice thing about it is you can also set alerts on all of these indicators. And to do that, you just right click and go add alert. In this case, I'm going to go to crossing down 80. These are those triggers, and then that are pretty common. Above 20 on the bullish side, below 80 on the bearish side. And then on the messages, I'll usually say bear alert. Keep it short there and hit create. So when and if that happens, the last time we had that on the weekly basis was February of this year. Remember when, you know, December was great and then things started rolling over, and then we had like this 6-month kind of correction. So, you know, there's definitely some mixed signals here. September is generally a down month for the markets, but I think there's also some very bullish signs pointing toward maybe alt season kicking in. We will know by watching the indicators, which takes the emotion out of this trading. But I wanted to kind of keep this pretty high level here. All right, you guys still with me? Cool. All right, let's go back to that example, then we'll do some real analysis on the real charts, maybe look at 1 or 2 of those. I did want to talk about the radar, and the radar is important because that's this right here. The reason we created the multi-time frame radar is back in 2021, December of 2021, we were pounding the table to get into a coin called Rune, Thor Chain, and it was up 159%. And we were saying, guys, you're missing out on this. But then the whole entire market rolled over. And I will show you that on the total market cap, it hit $3 trillion exactly, and that's when the programmatic selling kicked in. The whales and everybody had predetermined that number, I guess, and that's what dumped it. And so we had, obviously people were like, "Hey, this is not working out so well." And obviously we can't control the overall market there. But when the radar was created to show a green or red signal based on multiple time frames, so that if it's all green, you're in. Green is go. If it's all red, you want to get out of the market. And that way you have that kind of signal to say, hey, I should at least be selling kind of half of my position. And so if we were to do that here and turn on the radar, it's mixed. So the longer term time frame, monthly, quarterly, we're in a bull market. We are still in a bull market, and there's plenty of market structure here to wiggle around with. But I might have to adjust this parallel channel though, unfortunately. So I thought it was going to be, but here's the deal. I've just adjusted that. We have support. I think Bitcoin could come down to 112K. And then what that'll allow to give it some more time on this trend strength indicator to get a little bit more oversold and then snap back. So I think probably by the end of the week we'll have bounced. So I'm going to ride that out. Radar telling me bearish on the daily, bearish on the weekly, but monthly and quarterly still bullish. So it's kind of a barometer there you guys can use. I'll usually toggle that on and off. By the way, you don't need to use all of these. It's just more confluence. You're like Sherlock Holmes, and we're looking for more clues. So let's keep going. Any questions? You guys are still okay. You're good. All right. With that in mind, what do we want to look at next? I think we're done with the generic example. So on the bearish side, how many of you wish that you sold more Bitcoin or sold some back here when we hit 124K? Well, believe it or not, the signs were there, the signals were there. And it's a little tricky because it's price discovery. It closed up above, but this candle here and this ERI told me that this was likely the rejection zone and we'll pull back for a little bit. And the confluence, every time I don't follow this, I regret it, right? And sometimes there are competing signals, but when they start to align, that's when you have those clues. If you ever played that game Clue. So, and then we had bearish divergence, and so that was also last Wednesday, and so the signs were there. So what are we waiting for specifically before going in and adding more? Bullish ERI. Look back here. See this move? There was the bullish ERI. And it confirmed green a couple days later before it pushed higher. Bullish divergence. The signal line is generally a little bit late, but so the 3 or 4 that I'm looking at are ERI, TSI, RSI. Just remember that. That's the 3 musketeers, as it were. All right, all these silly acronyms are so you remember them and get it faster. So, all right, so that being said, I want to show the crypto screener that we don't always use, but here I've got these loaded. And so the only thing that looks good right now, believe it or not, is Cardano. And I had posted something recently that was it was by Crypto, or Tony the Bull, price targets for this bull run. Bitcoin, he said 250,000, Solana was 1,000, ETH was 10,000. He said Cardano was 0. I don't know why he was hating on Cardano. I don't love Cardano. It's a slow-moving battleship, but it's probably not going to 0. On the screener, though, I don't really love the chart. It's heading down out of a sell block, but what else do you notice? So this is another one of the great features Joe added this year, and we're always tweaking this. The buy blocks are down here where the orders are. The fluorescent green is money flow. That's where buyers came in at the market and they actually bought. And generally, these buy zones are respected and hold. So I don't know why Cardano's green, but there is a buy zone there. I'm not recommending it because there's still sellers above. But at any rate, when the market's healthy and you start seeing these all light up green, it's one more thing you can watch. And it's customizable here in the settings. If you go under inputs, you can change which coins you're following. So if you wanted to watch, say, change this one from near, and you wanted to look at Dogecoin, God forbid, there you type in Go Doge, and there it is. And sometimes the meme coins are the right play, but not today. All right. Any questions on that? Generally, I have that off unless I'm looking for trading opportunities and or just a general health of the market. So like the radar is specific to the coin that's pulled up. The screener is letting you see at a glance your top 8 coins, which ones are kind of looking good or not. Okay? All right, so we'll hide two of those because I've got one more to show you, and that is the dynamic average true range. Now, I like the dynamic average true range on a shorter time frame, so we're going to jump over to 1 hour, 4 hour chart, and we'll go full screen here, and we'll show this to you. A couple things here though. We're on Bitcoin, and I've been noticing for the last couple days heavy selling pressure. Lots of sellers up here on Bitcoin. So despite all the news and everything, and I've said this to a few of you privately. A few of you haven't had your one-on-ones yet, so we want to schedule that. But these buy blocks and sell blocks, if nothing else, if you use those and the ERI, you can do very well in crypto, and they work on every time frame. So lots of sellers here, lots of sellers here. The buyers are just below here at 112,000. If you have some cash available and looking for a good buy-in, I would put in buy limit orders, maybe a little bit above 112,000. The midpoint right there is usually where it hits. And sometimes it'll go to the bottom. So let's say you had 5K lying around and you wanted to buy Bitcoin. I would put a limit buy order at 12,100, maybe 12,150 right here. And I would put another half at 11,500. 111,500. Why? Because often these will overreact. Markets are scared. It'll wick down generally overnight in the Asian session, and then it'll bounce back by the morning. So this tells me the Italians are here. The buyers are here. I know it sounds too simple, you guys, but it's been working out really well for us. All right, let me do this here. I'm going to turn off the rocket just because we don't really need that on this time frame. We're going to look at the dynamic average true range after we look at the Bollinger Band. One nuance here on the Bollinger Band. I'm going to open up the 1 hour chart, and you can see these vertical lines on here. The red vertical line, if price closes for that hour, at or above the upper Bollinger Band, think of it as a rubber band. The farther you stretch a rubber band, at some point you have to let it go. And what does it do? It snaps back to the middle, and it might even go back and forth a little bit. Same thing, Bollinger Band. So we see when price, let me turn off the ERI for a moment. When prices go up and are touching that Bollinger Band, what happens? Invariably, they sell off and they go back to the median. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. Because I want to make sure everyone understands this, the Bollinger Band, it has, by default, it has a midline that I turn off because it's pretty much the same as my 21-day exponential moving average, right? So I turn mine off. It's a difference of one. It just creates too much noise. So I usually turn this off and I use instead the 21-day exponential moving average. Now those are free. The 21-day EMA, you just go to your free indicators and type in EMA. And some people use simple moving averages. You don't need both. Prefer this one, the moving average exponential. And to add those, you just click on it and you can see that it added one here in blue. Go over to the settings, and what I'll usually do is I'll click on the line width and I'll make it thicker. And for the other ones, you can change to 21-day and the 50-day. I like orange and green, so if we were going to do that, you could do that orange and green. Sometimes I'll have a 9 period. That's the default. That's a bit much for most people, but that's how you do it. And if I were to go 21, it would just cover over my my orange one there, right? So hopefully that makes sense. But I'm going to delete it and go back to orange. Okay. All right, so that's the Bollinger Band. Now, if it touches the lower Bollinger Band, and I'll zoom in right here, that means it's oversold, and generally that's a good time to buy it. See how the sellers were exhausted at that point and went sideways and pushed up higher. Make sense? If you want me to cover any questions at all, you guys, let me know. That's what we're here for. And if for any reason you don't have these indicators, go over to cryptomastery.org. You need to have these. This is primarily a training, but during this phase of the bull, you're trading at a disadvantage without these. And so you can look at the monthly, and there's an annual option here. The mentoring students, you guys have this included. And that is full, by the way. We closed the doors on that. Can't get in that right now. But for everybody else, it's 97 a month or 600 for the year. Lifetime option gone. Can't do it. Merchant accounts, they don't like lifetime offers. So anyway, please, cryptomastery.org, guys. I'm not here to sell you anything. I think this not to be self-serving. I want you to have the tools to succeed in this bull market. And chances are this is all over end of October. Maybe November, but I saw something interesting this morning. Look, we've been tracking global M2, and on the global M2, it peaks around October 25th. I think we will see a pullback around then, and then maybe a second bull push to 200K. That's what I think. But we'll see. We trust our indicators. So Bitcoin is dumping a bit here. Let's see what the news is. Let's see bid support stacks, highest paying John. So look, it's this is just market structure. I did post something last night. If you're wondering what's going on, the market makers are going for liquidity right here, and I will go find that chart because I put it in the M3 Active Trader right here. And we can look at it live. I'm not to get off topic here, but the market makers, they make a market and they make a profit by having buyers and sellers. And so if I zoom out right here to 114,000 is where they've gone down and liquidated a whole bunch of longs, and that's liquidity. They've taken that Bitcoin back under management, I guess you could say. Probably they have a big buyer at those price levels and all the way down to 112K. It's nothing wrong with Bitcoin or the markets. I think Powell was going to speak this week, so maybe he's, a little bit of spooking the markets. But I would say this is a good time to be buying down in these ranges, and I'm not seeing any big warning signs here. Things can change, but at this point, it's a buy the dip moment. Coming down, I would expect to come down around 112K and retest that. So if anything changes, I'll let you know. But this is so far what I see, and it's still in an uptrending parallel channel here. So at the bottom of that range, maybe 111,000, just under, certainly doable. But in retrospect, in hindsight, it's never easy, but it's always easy in hindsight. Look how simple that it would have been if we just sold Bitcoin right in the middle of that red zone. Let's take a look at Ethereum. We did actually nail it on Ethereum because there were two sell zones at 3,600. I suggested selling 30, I forget where that was, and then up here at 4,800. Same thing, sellers up here. So if you're brand new, use these buy-sell blocks on the daily and weekly time frames. And you can also get it a little bit more fine-tuned on the 1 hour and 4 hour. Now this is a little tricky though, and I've got a lot of studies on here. But so on the weekly time frame, this is a bearish engulfing candle, but which would normally indicate ETH comes lower. There's a big buy block there. I sold my ETH up in here, and I'm waiting for a pullback. And so the question is, will it be supported in this range? And preferably, if you have some powder dry, you'd wait and set alerts at the midpoints of these buy blocks. Because if we come back down to 3,300, I would be buying ETH there. But things are a little overbought on the weekly time frame and the daily time frame. So here's another nuance. Without even looking at price, this trend strength indicator, when it breaks below 80, signifies it's going to continue lower It's going to continue lower for some time. Now, whether it goes all the way down here, let's hope that it does, because the red team, I use this analogy of the tug of war. There's a green team and a red team. And sometimes the green team gets tired and because they've been pulling really hard, like here, and pulling it over the line. And then the red team gathers their strength. That's the Bears. And the green team's tired, so the Bears pull for a while. And the market needs that dynamic or there is no game, right? If the bulls were always buying and it just goes straight up, then there would be no point. So it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. And I like Joe's analogy there too. The waves. The waves are crashing right now. Kind of. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. But the red team's in control. Let's say, and sometimes it's over 4 or 5 days, sometimes longer. But let's say we're right about here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe another 10 days of, downward pressure. Maybe it's only 4 days and then we bounce. My best guess is we kind of come in here to third last week in August. Keep in mind, all the big traders are gone. They're down in the Hamptons sipping pina coladas right now at their big fancy beach house by the pool. And so September is usually when money comes back in to Wall Street. But I'm hearing mixed reviews on, do we have a bullish September this time? I think alt season it seems to be setting up. Let's take a quick look at that because these signals also work on the total market cap. And so everything's kind of pushing down here. I had drawn these two scenarios on total market cap, and what I like to do is invalidate them. So this is off the table. And what we're seeing is this kind of a drop. And, so probably we're going to need to get into September before kind of pushing higher and heading a little bit lower here. That's what I see. Big sell block above. And so this is the process I use going through the charts. So what do we see here? Kind of inconclusive. This is total market cap minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. So basically the alts. And we see the trend strength indicator broke. Market structure there. Probably going to head lower for a bit longer. And but what we want to wait for specifically is the next green and these things to start turning green. Now, hopefully it's not going to come all the way back down here. We have trend line support. I would say it's going to come in right around here somewhere and bounce. So we'll see what happens. But this is a good signal of alt season because it excludes Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's look at total too. Clearly we can see all that sales resistance. A lot of that was Ethereum. This is total market cap excluding Bitcoin. Does that give you a pretty good clue, you guys, of where the sellers are? I mean, because without it, in last market cycle, we wouldn't have any idea. This is like the Wizard of Oz. You guys, some of you have heard me use the analogy, but without these, the Wizard of Oz, everyone thought it was magic until somebody peeked behind the curtain and there was this guy, the Wizard of Oz, pulling the pulleys and the chains and the gears, and then they realized he's just a normal guy. Well, this allows us to peel behind the curtains and see, hey, look, there's a whole bunch of sellers there. Do we want to be buying there? No. We want to be selling there. And sure enough, then this rolled over. So let's actually go to the trade success checklist real quick and show you the bearish scenario. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh this, clear it all out. Now, what the trade success score can go negative as well. I will go back and show the dynamic average true range. You can also use that as your stop loss. I forgot to do that. But since we're on this topic, short bearish trades. We, at the end of probably in November, December, I'll make the determination, are we going to teach shorting? And the reason I hesitate is it's highly risky because you're using leverage. If we do, it will be low leverage, but you can do very well in bear markets with leverage. So let's just say if we were doing that, and you saw an all red radar, that would be a bearish scenario. And if you saw a sell limit orders block, we now have a trade success score of -2. That's just, flip it around for a bearish trade. ERIs, same things. TSIs below 80, score of -4, bearish divergence, and signal line red. So now we're like, all right, we have a -6, we should be short, right? So with that in mind, let's see, let me come back here. Would have been pretty obvious because we had bearish engulfing candle, we had the seller block up here, and it's broke down as of 2 days ago. and we had bearish divergence, and the signal line is now red. I think ETH goes lower from here, and we had it with Bitcoin. Total market cap hit that mid level of the sell block. We've been going lower ever since. Signal line just turned red. So we have some sell pressure in the market here, and so as we can see, anyway, so that's why you'll see in the mentoring program when my sell calls, when I'm telling people to sell, like I did on Ethereum, was right in the middle of a sell block. So where does that leave us? Same thing on Solana, right up in here at 205. We were selling in there. I did sell some in here, and I will say that I have nearly doubled my Solana in my IRA. It would have doubled, but on one of the last trades, I didn't hit the second buy button. At any rate, I was just buying in these green blocks last year all along this 125 level and then selling into these upper areas. So that's how you can compound your crypto. If you have one coin, whether it's Bitcoin or ETH or Solana, I think Solana is a great swing trading coin, and buying in green zones and selling up into the red zones. And so, because taking profits and then buying more when it comes down lower, you can buy more than you had before. So for Solana, I don't know. I think could come down around 170 region, the parallel trend channel, and then reverse. And we can also watch that. Since we don't see any buy blocks on the daily, let's see what we see on the 4-hour here. And a little bit unusual to see this kind of sell pressure. I don't know what happened in the markets, but it's we can see it was there. It was apparent in the signals. This is a 1-hour, and 172. There's some buy pressure. Let's take a look at that on the 4-hour. Though all that tons of sell pressure up in this range. So in retrospect and hindsight, look, these are rules to live by in trading. And never be buying in red blocks. I rarely say never, but why would you? And so specifically, what am I seeing here? Well, I think that from here we see where the buyers are lined up. I see a new parallel trend channel going down there. So pretty clear to me that would come down to around 165. Really need to break up, and it's gonna take a little bit to get through that. And so 5% institutional demand, strong forecast money, 300 tokens, 1-inch across. So there's no real news, you guys. It's just this end of the summer doldrums. Volume is dried up, and when volume is low, market makers can kind of manipulate price around. And typically, if they have buyers down here, they'll push price down, or if they can liquidate a lot of leveraged longs, I'm sure tomorrow we'll come in and see all the liquidations from today. All the people that were, and it always happens when we hit new all-time highs, like Bitcoin hit 124K, retail, everyone goes in high leverage long, 10x, 20x, and then what happens? They become a target. All right, let's look at the average true range. Any questions, you guys? You can watch this again. I think it's a pretty all-encompassing training, and I would recommend watching it again, but let's just go in here. I want to show this. Typically, so the average true range, you'll see that it's changed the colors of the candles a little bit. Sometimes that's a little bit annoying, but what you want to be looking for is these exit and entry zones. And I'm going to hide my exponential moving averages for clarity. Now, typically, you can use this as a stop loss. Average true range, it gives an average of the range of prices in the past. And I don't know if Joe is still on, maybe he could probably explain it better, but I use it as, I usually look for entry zones, and look at that. It's flipped to entry, and then all the buyers lined up. And then the exit mode was where the sellers are. So these work very well on the 4-hour chart. And you can also set an alert on that. So let's do that together. I would like to know, add alert on Solana on the 4-hour chart, and the signal for that is the rocket. That would be the entry when it flips to entry. And you can do it once. You can do it once per bar close. I'm going to do it once, and that way the next time it fires, hopefully down here where there's confluence, then we'll know to buy Solana there. But Joe, do you mind chiming in on the average true range? I think maybe that'd be helpful to have you explain that too.
Sure,
In
that's one of my favorite chart overlays. I use that. Um, that automatically adjusts to the volatility of the market. So what that means is that if the market is fast paced, because not every time it's orderly, it may be erratic. This has the ability to adjust. That's why it's called, hence the name, average true range. It has the ability to automatically adjust to the average true range of the bars. So it's kind of like if you could imagine suspension on the car, and we were just about to hit a bumpy road. The car is able to adapt to the suspension so we can stay on the road. It's sort of like the same thing here when the market starts to break out and we get the validation with the TSI, the signal line. We look for this as a way to validate and also to have the right expectation on the trade.
Yeah.
So
So and again, you can sometimes people use that as their stop loss. I use it more of an overall exit and entry signal. And again, it's one more clue, and you don't always need these, but if you're unsure on the daily or the weekly charts, I'll go into a 1 hour and 4 hour. And if you're new to TradingView, by the way, one tip for you guys is that to have multiple windows open and save the different layouts. So I did a training on that that's on YouTube. And let's see, did Myrene post that link there? Maybe she didn't hear me. We'll go find it, but there's a 2 hour training on YouTube for that. What I wanted to say though is, if you can see, I have different tabs. This is named my CM for Crypto Mastery Pro Layout Daily, and I have a number of different studies here. The way I manage this is with something called One Tab, and so essentially, if I wanted to save all of these tabs with the different layouts, I could click that button so that later, if I want to reload them all, I just come in here and do restore all, and it'll load all these different charts. That's a huge time saver than changing the layout every time. And where you do the layouts is you have this kind of a button here where, if you wanted to make a split screen, you could say, I'm going to make a copy of this. I recommend you start with your daily layout. I can share my layout links if you'd like, but let's just say CM Pro Layout Daily copy. But I want to call it something else. So I might say test 1 hour and 4 hour layout. And by the way, guys, you can always Google that stuff. It's successful people are resourceful. I'm just going to give you a little tip here. I'm trying to think what might be holding you back if you're new and understanding this. So now we have a copy of the daily layout, and I called it the 1 hour, 4 hour though. So I'll click on the layout setup, and I'll just do this side by side. And there's all these different configurations you can choose from, and you don't need most of them. You don't need 12 charts on the page. It's a bit crazy. You can have 16 charts on a page now. I think that's for the day traders, but real simple. There's a double layout, and then there you go. But I already have one saved, so that's how you do it. I'm gonna maybe just delete this. I don't think I've ever deleted one, if that's even a thing. But any questions on that? Let's see. Taking a quick look at the DXY. I thought the Dixie was going to dump here. It's kind of building a little bit of strength. Let's take up. We're not going to show you that yet. This is the new super indicator. We're going to bring Joe on and talk about that in a minute. And looks all red though. Doesn't look too bullish to me. Let's see. Let me close this, and I want to load up one thing and have a look at the M2 money supply and kind of see where we're at in the markets. And I want to look at that. And where else is the global M2? No, this is the wrong one. I don't want to do that one. Don't look at that for now. Let's see. Bear with me, guys. I'm going to load up a chart here. I want to see where M2 is right now. See what's going on with that thing. And I don't see any questions. You guys must be all makes sense then. Clear as mud. So yeah, so M2 shows this dip was to be expected. And this is not exact. I've been using a 90-day or an 84 day offset. Somebody today was saying they use 102 days. I think that's 90 is not it. I think 84 is it. Just to get the approximation of it. Mm, no, it's if I put it back to 90. Point is, global M2 leads Bitcoin by 10 to 12 weeks. So it's not an approximation. I think, and 12 weeks would be 84 days. See, somebody had 82 days. Guys, forgive me. This is totally off topic, but I think it's important to know what's going on in the markets. 82 days is pretty good, actually. Well, it changes. Sometimes it follows 82 to 84, 90 days. But basically, let me put it back to 84. Basically, what we see now today is what Global M2 forecasted, the yellow line. And if that's true, this should be bottoming here today-ish. And so I think Bitcoin again goes to 112 and then we bounce. And we have another hiccup around August 28th. And we push up to around September. And then we bleed out in September into kind of mid-September. And then we rally like crazy into this shows September of 2025. And then it continues. Well, then it's showing it kind of rolls over. So if that's the case, not going by number, I think we could, this is where we push up to at least probably 135K. That is one of my targets on the bull flag breakout we're in. And but this number is tied to Bitcoin, not total market cap. So, and then we have maybe a correction. This would signify, if M2 is the thing to follow, this would signify kind of a market top in September of 25. The other person I'm saying October, we'll be watching, but then they bleed out and a bounce, and then who knows? So we'll have to see, you guys. We'll have to see what these things tell us, but we will know based on what the signals are showing. Okay, we're a bit off topic. Any questions on any of this, you guys? I think we've covered it all. I'm happy to pull up some coins and just as a case study, what is Tether Dominance doing? And yeah, that's a little concerning here. Tether Dominance is bouncing. We'll cover this in M2, M3 class tomorrow. So I guess real quick though, this is our super indicator that combines. Joe's been working hard on this because I've been asking him, can we combine our best indicators into one and turn it into a trade alert? Joe, do you want to comment on this in just a high level? This is not available yet, but this is something that ultimately we want to turn into a trade algo that auto trades. But we're not there yet. It's not ready. Might have a few beta testers soon, but it's not for everybody. I think probably, you know what? Let's keep it real high level, though. I think we might confuse people with this. This is the future, not for now. But anyway, Joe, go ahead, Joe. What is this?
Well, what I wanted to show was is that this is a great way in here of using the technology, the AI inside the trading view, and three of my favorite chart overlays with the crypto mastery is the TSI, the RSI, and the ERI. So what we have here is a way that we're able to have the program look at all three chart overlays at the same time to see if there's confluence. So it's doing kind of like what humans cannot do, which is to keep track of if the market is bearish or if the market is bullish. In this case, we're looking at a bearish alignment to the downside. But it's the same case if we were on the upside. You'd be looking at the optimal alignment, uh, bullish alignment. So this is a great way in here to stay out of trouble, but it's also a great way in here to add to positions. Like I like to call it add to the win, because right now, the markets are pulling back. So if we can get away in here where we can add to the win with the right timing of the technology, then that's what that's what we're all looking for because it's trying to have the right timing for the market is tough. But what you're seeing here is replay mode, and when things are in alignment, then you'll see everything in confluence and it all shows green. And this is like the equivalent to looking at three screens at once. So depending on how you start off trading, you might only have one screen, you might only have two. I recommend you have two screens. This is a great way in here. Whereas is that you can stay in the direction, and when you get the opportunity, you add to the win. Um, not that I'm recommending anyone over leverage their account. Okay, I'm just using this as an example of how you can use this.
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we're still some now. I do know that some of you are, this is all brand new. And so this is not for you at this point, and you don't need to worry about it. It's a way to make things simpler later. And generally, we'll simplify it as we go. So don't worry about that. There are some things I still need to show you, though. To be fair, this is a training for setting up your indicators. And so there are two of them. Let me just say that the indicators can either go down below your chart or be overlays on the chart. And specifically, there are two generally that I put on top of the chart, and that's the ERI. I'll show you exactly how to do this in a minute. ERI and the Bollinger Bands. And so what I'm going to do though is I'm going to delete them, and I'm going to add them again. So let's see. I'm going to do it on a new chart though, because I don't want to mess this one up. So I'll come in here, I'll save the layout as a test layout, make a copy. And this is what you can do when you're just playing around with things. So CM Pro layout, daily copy. So I'll do that. I think it's important to make sure you guys all know how to add the indicators. So what I'll do is I'll delete all of them, and we'll just do a nice clean screen here. And I'll go over here and I'll just delete all of these, the EMAs, the ERI Pro. And to Joe's comment, if you're not really trading actively and you're mostly following in the mentoring chat, then you don't need two screens necessarily. You can do it on a laptop. If you're, I have a number of ones here, but I'm watching a lot of information. All right, we don't need that, and we don't need that, and we don't need that. So I'll delete all of these here, and then we'll do it together. If you have any questions, let me know, because we're going to wrap up here fairly soon. All right, so if I'm gonna just get to a blank chart. Remove 16 drawings. There, remove 3 indicators. Okay, so now we got nothing. Now what you want to do, and by the way, if you have already filled out your TradingView ID and your signals aren't showing up, just refresh your browser, because sometimes it gets cookied and has to load. All right, so coming down in here, we're going to go up to the chart overlay, invite only, and you'll see these with a blue circle next to it. And the order that you click these is where they'll appear in the what you call it, the list up top. So because I usually look for ERI Pro first, I'm going to click that one first. And then I like TSI. I like TSI. I'll do that, and then I'll do RSI. And then the order block detector. You can do whatever order you want to do. Signal line, Bollinger Bands. You can sort of drag them. You can rearrange the order on the chart also. And then the rocket. I'll leave the screener off for now. So first things, you see the ERI right here. And you can hide these, by the way, with these little down arrows. Let me just hide all these so it's clear. I'll do that one next. So what you want to do with this is click on the arrow for the ERI, click and hold, or click it one time, and click and hold and drag it up to the upper chart. And now it's up top. What's important now, though, is over on the left, because if I were to do this, it's not going to keep up with it. You want to go over to the left here and right click. This is as complicated as it gets. Right click and go merge all scales into one on the right. We'll do this again with the Bollinger Bands. Boom. All right, so let's do the same thing with the Bollinger Bands. Click on them until they highlight and click and drag it up to the top. Now, the reason we merge all scales to the right is otherwise they're independent and they don't really work. Okay, so again, over to the left, right click, merge all scales into one on the right. Okay, now they stay together. See that? And cool. So now those are good. The rocket's on the chart there, and we had a nice little rocket, by the way, that shot up in the air. See that? What I don't have on here are the moving averages. We'll add those in a minute. So what we have the ERI Pro, we have the TSI down here. Let's open these up. And and when you're new, I encourage you to hide the other signals so that you're not distracted by it all, and look for that confluence. So on that checklist, the first two we have are ERI TSI, and what the next one is the RSI. These are the three you really want to start with, and then the order blocks. Because the order blocks really give you the kind of, it's like a big road sign on the road. Danger ahead. These are predictive because we can see where price will likely turn around. Okay, so these two, and then I'll turn on the signal line. These are kind of the four horsemen, as it were. ERI, TSI, RSI signal. And from there, you can venture in and turning on the Bollinger Bands, things like that. And typically, I have them off. I'll check them every now and then, but if it's in the mid-range here, I don't need to worry about it because I'm just watching this trend strength indicator come down. I promise you guys you'll get this because we're going to go over it every week, and you're going to start hearing me say the same things over and over again, and it'll start to click. So let's see, and hiding these, if you want to change the order, you just hit the arrows. So if you want the signal line higher, you can do that, or you can move it down. I usually have ERI, TSI, RSI signal. Any questions? All right. So then I would go over here and like we did before, EMA, exponential moving average. Click that twice because it'll add it twice. Go into the settings, change that to 21. Style, color, orange. I'm going fast because I already covered this. You can watch the replay, but there, it's that easy once you know what you're doing. And you can set those as the default, by the way. In here, see this little gear looking thing? If you do that and go to the drop down, save as default. So anytime you add a new exponential moving average, it'll automatically default to that orange 21 line. And so the blue one, same thing, go in here, style for that. I like green, and the line I like a little thicker, and the inputs 50. In the old days, it was 10, 20, 50, 100, 200. Along the way, for some reason, we started using a 21 period, or a weekly. And that's the other thing I think I'll leave you guys with. The indicators are fractal, they work in all time frames. I'm most often looking at the daily and the weekly. And what does that tell us? We're kind of in a consolidation zone with Solana in the daily weekly. If it comes down to 105, I'll buy it all day long. Hopefully it's putting in higher lows. If we get this bull kind of phase resolve to the upside, I think it's, we'll see something like that. And we are in a kind of a wedge pattern that should break to the upside with the altcoins. But sometimes we never know. Okay, I don't see any questions here. Not so much conclusive. If my main indicators are inconclusive, then I'll sort of look at the other ones. But I do like that price is above the moving averages here. That's also on the trade success checklist. That's not something that we created. That's just trading. It's the analogy is if you're on the ice, if you go ice skating out on the lake, you want to make sure you're on thick ice that you won't fall under, right? And so I haven't found a better analogy for all this stuff. But when you're above the orange line, that's the thin ice. You can skate around. Maybe you're okay, but you might fall through a little bit. And then hopefully there's some thicker ice below that, right? So that's what's going to hold you, keep you from drowning. But when the price goes below the green line, you fall under the water, then you're drowning. You might try to pop up once or twice, but in this case, we're going higher. But that is a barometer of market sentiment, and so based on that, I think probably we head higher, but it's a little bit inconclusive here. We have some more sell pressure on that daily chart. So, yeah, it's got some work to do. I wouldn't expect major fireworks this week, but the signals showing a little more downside. Where the biggest moves happen when the daily and the weekly are in alignment, they're oversold, and we get an ERI and a TSI turn higher on both. Those are the biggest moves that we see, like back here in April. And if I let me just show you this so that if nothing else on the monthly time frame for Bitcoin, if all you did was trade when the ERI fires off, it's only happened 4 times in the history of Bitcoin. And this is back testing because we didn't have it back then. But if this is a monthly chart of Bitcoin, and I'm on Bitstamp, so it's not going to show the earliest one. But look at all that money flow. Let's just look at 2015 rather, right at the depths of the bear market, bullish early reversal indicator. When did it happen again? March of 2019, before this big move happened. When did it happen again? Well, when I was telling people to get into the markets was January of 23, right after the bottom, because of this arrow. It's called every market bottom. And so if nothing else, if you just had this indicator and bought every time that monthly early reversal happens, again, we are piggybacking on institutional programmatic buying and selling. That kicked in January. I was actually saying we launched M3 Trader in December of 2022 when I said buy when there's blood in the streets. And that was at 16.5. So we were doubling down right in here. So it doesn't have to be that hard. We have to get out of our own way. And so I just want to show you these do work in multiple time frames. And the key is to look for confluence. Again, back here in 2021, we saw confluence here with the RSIs at both of these, the ERI, the TSI showing bearish divergence. And then finally, the trend strength indicator broke below 80, and we had the signal line go red. So if we see that again on the weekly time frame, or when we do, we're out. There's various other, if they don't align, it's noise. And that's what we're trying to build with that super indicator so that it's only showing alignment. But, look, we've had double bearish divergences, TSIs, and kind of a little tricky to tell what happens next here. But so far, we don't have any big scary arrows on the top side. And so anyway, any questions, you guys? Any feedback? Was this helpful? I'm up here talking to a wall here. I don't know if you guys even can hear me. I assume so, but obviously. But I know it's a lot to take in. You can watch it again, but that's it. I mean, there's not much else that I'm looking at. There are some other things that I'm looking for in confluence, and I have my bear market top studies. None of them are showing we're at a market top, but thanks everybody. Thanks for the feedback. Hi, Nicola. Peter, thank you. Cornelia, thank you. Like with anything, there's always a learning curve, but just be glad I'm not up here trying to make you learn Elliott waves and GAN fans. And just, I think it's worth noting, if you go over here, look at this, there's all this crazy stuff that you don't need. Simple things like head and shoulders maybe, but you get into the ABCD pattern, the Elliott wave, impulse wave, Elliott correction wave, just forget all that nonsense. Nothing against it, guys, but you don't need it. And in all fairness, I went head to head with a guy, an ETH whale in the 2021 top. He drew his Elliott waves. He was convinced. He just convinced it would already almost happen. He's like, well, we're going to come back here and then wave 5 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know. I see a head and shoulders. I think we're going lower. And later he congratulated me. He said, you were right. And he dropped out. He stopped posting. Now, he's an ETH whale and just built a $35 million house. So he doesn't really care. It doesn't matter. But the point is not to blow my own horn here, but look, my favorites bar here is full of simple things. By the way, for setting that up, you can Google all this stuff. The indicators I use the most are down at the bottom. How do you get them to show up there? Over on the left, you just put a star next to them. and that's it. And so most of these I don't use, anchored VWAP. I know what these all are, fixed range volume profile. I mean, sometimes that's kind of interesting, shows you where the most of the volume is. And so, I mean, I don't know, this, according to this, we could come back down to 198K, but it's very subjective how you draw these things. And so, uh, anyway, don't worry about it. And for most of you, I think it's helpful to understand what I said, at least empirically, so that when I'm in the class and I say, hey, we have a bullish ERI and TSI, at least you can go, oh, okay, I get it. I know what that means. But this is an ascending wedge, and well, yeah, I won't get into too much of that because I don't know. Sometimes these are bearish and they break down, but sometimes they're bullish and they break higher. You guys have the cheat sheets for this, by the way, the highly probable trade patterns. And the tiebreaker, as it were, will be our signals. And so, like, if we get this below 80 on the weekly, forget all the news. I don't care what's going on. We're going lower. Not that that's what I want, but often we'll get a bounce on it too. And in the phase of the bull market that we're in, ostensibly, we can stay overbought for an unusually long time. And let's hope, that we stay up here for an unusually long time. But that alert, see that right there? If I see that, and it has to be as of the closing bell, Sunday at 8 p.m., if in the next 2 weeks we do that, and we get this crossover, I'm out. I'm selling 80% of everything because we're going lower. I don't know. I don't think so. There's September's going to be interesting. It could go either way. Let's see. I need to get my different chart ups set up saved. Okay. Thank you, Paul. And yeah, it's repetition. Repetition is the mother of all learning. And guys, if you want any of my charts, okay, I have sharing on most of them, and I'll just copy the link here. If you click on this link in your TradingView, it'll load my chart, and I think it's view only, but as a courtesy, maybe just make a copy of it so you don't. I've had strange things show up on my charts somehow. It should be view only, but that's yeah. And then if you ever want any of the other ones, but I showed you how to set up the 1 hour and 4 hour. And so yeah, guys, I think that's about it. I got a couple things to take care of. I'm probably missing something, but that's all you really need. Get used to these. Use the trade success checklist. And the simple thing, what we really want to watch for is if we start to pull back, losses are never fun, but preservation of capital is paramount. If you sell half positions to buy back lower, you'll get back to break even faster. I did share a chart not too long ago that's really telling though, and it shows if you're down like 10%, you need this much to get back. But if you're just realize if you hold on, if you're down 50%, it takes 100% gain to get back there to break even. So I always recommend taking smaller, manageable losses that don't give you a coronary. Just say, all right, well, with the intent of buying it back, because the bounce will then you'll get back to break even faster. And so yeah, so that's what we'll be watching for. So we are a bit overbought here on these weekly charts, and nothing really to be too afraid of. On the monthly chart, getting bearish divergence, but we're not to the end of the month yet. I will keep us posted because these bearish divergences that's a real thing. Because back here we had April of 24, bearish engulfing candle, bearish divergence, and we drifted down for a while. Here, had another down month in March of 25. What we really want to see are these bullish divergences, right? And we can only do that after coming down. That's the thing. That would have been January of 2023. Look at that signal, you guys. I wasn't as adamant as I am now. I was still questioning that a little bit because, we were at the depths of the bear market. We'd come down to 15K, 16.5, which was my forecast. Those of you who don't know, back here in May, I publicly said we would go down to 16.5, and we did. But still, I was a little uneasy putting out a call. But when these aligned, our bullish ERI, the signal went green, bullish RSI bullish divergence, and then we had that buy block. The money flow came in, and then if we see these signals align again, back up the truck, sell the house, sell the kids, at least make him get a job, sell the just that's when we go all in. And hindsight is all I know, but we have these sizable buy blocks here. The biggest reason I think we're okay here, and we're not, we certainly could pull back a bit, but in the macro scheme of things, we're going higher. 84K, is protected. I think the bear market low of the next cycle, for multiple reasons, 74K, 75K, worst case. And if that plays out, well, we'll see. I have done that study where we reverse engineered why that number might be the case and why $245,000 Bitcoin might be the cycle high. I'll keep you posted on that. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. Well, cool. That's all I have time for, and yeah, I'll let you guys go. Please join us for M3 Active Trader tomorrow. We'll unpack everything in a little more detail and look at any buying opportunities. I'm going to just turn on one thing briefly because we are also waiting for a cycle low on from a timing standpoint. And we're getting pretty close to that. Those of you who know, this is not our indicator, but I'm combining our signals with this timing indicator here. And when these two align, it's like magic. So, I'd almost, we're on Solana here. Let me get to Bitcoin. Not to confuse everybody, just want to give you a little bit of a heads up. So, look, if we come down to 112,000 and we start to bounce and we get a cycle low, that what we're looking for is this thing. We see another little camel thing show up. Those of you who know, you know. We're trying to time the markets that way, but also with our signals. Because when there's confluence on these, and sometimes the camel indicator goes a day before ours. I have a theory about that, but you can see this cycle's getting oversold. We should start turning this window within the next week or so. We should put in a bottom. I think, next kind of day or two, we're going to see this reverse and go higher. That's what I think. All right, everybody. That's all I got time for. I keep saying that, but I got to go. Thanks for coming and welcome, everybody. If I didn't get your name, I apologize. Aisling, to all you new mentoring members, welcome. And everybody, thanks for being here. And yeah, let's crush it. It's going to be go time soon. And I'll keep you updated in the M3 chat and the private client chat. Cheers, everyone. Thanks, Joe, for being here.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you.